And welcome to our online worship service, a time shared by members, friends, and visitors as a congregation of people in the spirit of First Parish of Sudbury Unitarian Universalist. This morning we gather as three communities, Framingham, Wayland, and Sudbury, to find meaning, to participate in community, maybe to find some small way to help make our communities and our lives a little bit better. We have chosen to participate remotely as a commitment to one another's health and personal growth. This morning we gather in love with open hearts and minds, endeavoring to create a time and space where all are welcome to bring their whole self, respective beliefs, identities, gladness, and sorrows. I ask you to leave nothing about yourself behind. We love and welcome you just as you are. There is a button available below this window. If you click on it, you will receive our order of worship. Please open it to follow along. This morning's opening reading is "And Then" by Lang Lev. I always thought that the words "and then" were a prelude to something wonderful, like seeing a ship come in or finding a note in your letterbox when you weren't expecting one. That swift, surprising transition from nothing to everything. And then. Two little words that hold the world of promise. And then the light pierced through the dark, forbidding sky. And then the rain stopped falling. And then I met you. Please join us in lighting our chalice this morning. The chalice lighting words are located in your order of worship. Life is a gift for which we are grateful. We gather in community to celebrate the glories and the mysteries of this great gift. We light this chalice as our commitment to one another. Please join in this morning's hymn, number 163, "For the Earth Forever Turning."
For
Our reading this morning is by D. Scott Cooper. It's called To Light the Darkness and Begin Again. There's a glow far off in the distance, a light to which no path leads. We know that each time we help another to join with them, to heal the world, each time we stand up for justice and what is right, each time we work and hope and love against all odds, a spark is created that adds to the intensity of that light. We join with others who see and turn toward the glow. As we travel toward that beacon, the underbrush of indifference is flattened and a path is created. More are led to join us, and obstacles are kicked away, and a road is formed. Many approach the light, strengthened by our works, and we join them to each light a candle. Although many candles are lighted, the blaze never diminishes. We travel out into the world again to light the darkness and begin again. The cycle continues, our work intensifying the glow and our joining with others to travel to the blaze and light our candles again. We continue knowing that one day we, or our grandchildren, or perhaps their grandchildren, will no longer travel that widened and trodden path to light a candle, because dawn has arrived. Justice is commonplace, and poverty is vanquished. And the beloved community stands illuminated in the fullness of daylight. Please enjoy our musical interlude. Hello, dear friends. Welcome to a time filled with holidays. Different than what we've known before, though. I begin this sermon by stating the obvious. 2020 has been one of the most difficult years in my recollection. I could probably just leave it there, do a mic drop, walk away, but there has to be something else in all of this. Some silver lining, some wisdom, something that might make sense and redeem what we've been going through. Religion and faith for many are made for this exact process of finding hope in hopeless places. Statements such as God is with us in the most difficult of times may be comforting to some, but not to all. God language and or spiritual language is easy for some to embrace and truly challenging for others. So we sit here this morning seeking common ground on which to rebuild, redefine, reframe what has taken place over the last year, what we have been living through, and what might come next. I've heard from many Unitarian Universalists that finding a higher power outside of themselves can be difficult. I've heard from folks who are trying to find their way towards recovery with the help of Bill W. and Alcoholics Anonymous that the second step feels beyond their reach, coming to believe in a higher power that can give strength. When we face into hard times, one can feel alone and lost because it can be hard to believe in such an intervening force that we can hand over our worries and burdens to. Throw it up to a higher power. I hear that statement quite often. And yet, to be honest, I wish I could throw it up to a higher power at times. While I'm at it, who do I think I'm believing in that I think that I have control of my destiny? There is a tension that resides within throwing it up to a higher power, clutching at the control that I think that I have or want to have. I mean, it wasn't up to me to create this divisive culture and pandemic, to call them into being. I and all of us really are literally just trying to do and survive the best that we can. We all are just trying to do the best that we can. Some days I want that higher, far more intelligent power to give me guidance and generally to watch out for me. I've been reading about higher powers that we might be able to relate to over the last couple of months, that we might even believe could help us to give us insight, and that we may be able to rely on. I found five powers that I read about that I would like to share with you. I invite you to try them on for size. See how they fit. Accept them, discard them, look for more. First in my list is the law of nature. Mother Nature. That is who has her way. She has her special way of stomping on all of our best laid plans. Think about it. Outdoor weddings are ruined by rain. That big sports game gets a snow delay. Hurricanes take out people's homes. Often there's little we humans can do but take cover and learn from the experiences provided by Mother Nature. Don't get me wrong. I love her. There's no doubt about it, truly. But she is already burdened with climate change, and I'm not sure that she's too happy with humankind. So throwing anything up to her may just find its way being tossed right back at us. Next in our higher powers is the law of science. When scientists discovered the atom, they believed they found the smallest particle, the smallest one possible. But then they discovered that atoms are made up of even smaller parts. With every question scientists answer, even more arise. The most common one is the question of why. Scientists simply endeavor to solve a mystery that gets deeper and deeper the more they investigate. That sounds a lot like real life to me in general. The more we look, the more we find. The more that we find, the more that we realize how much we don't know. We all tend to seek the why in our lives, and that journey can be endless. I do rely on science every day, especially as we face into this pandemic, begin to look hopefully towards receiving a vaccine. Scientists are trying to understand and discover the inner workings of the universe and beyond. I'm incredibly thankful for all the labor of love that scientists and seekers do, especially the work that has been done with regard to sacred geometry. That is one of my passions. Love. Love is the third offering of a higher power, and frankly, is my very favorite of all. Love is an infinite resource, and it's a powerful one. Love, as a higher power, doesn't have to be restricted to romantic love. If love is acceptance, then we can look at love from a higher vantage point, as something that can unite and empower us all. That kind of all redeeming energy is known as agape, defined as unconditional love, the highest form of love, the love of a parent for a child. That's the kind of love that agape is. I definitely rely on an unconditional love as a motivating factor for what ails humankind. We humans might just do anything for love. Unconditional love is the foundation of my theology, motivating me to restrain judgment and to instead extend compassion. My mantra all day and every day is love, 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 love for all. Next on the list of higher powers to try out is the flow of the universe. Some say things happen the way they're supposed to. Others say they happen the way they happen. The latter gets at the idea that the universe is moving in some fashion, and there is little we as humans can do about it. Where it's going, why it's moving, what direction. Also known to me as serendipity. In this arena, no one can answer the questions about why. Not really. Most mystical connections can be described as just being part of the flow of the universe. You might have heard this, go with the flow. How many times on a daily basis do we remind ourselves to do just that, go with the flow? I do believe in some level of universal intervention or providence. I think about how many interactions occur on a daily basis that just do not seem random. I have a hard time imagining that this life is just people bumping into one another. But on the other hand, do I believe in a grand plan? I just can't imagine that a grand plan exists, but it might, who knows? When we think about science and mathematics, there seems to be more than meets the eye. A set of laws and patterns. Could the flow be affected by these rules and patterns? Will we ever really know how it unfolds and interacts? The last on my list of higher powers is humanity. In fact, we all struggle, and sometimes we lose, sometimes we win, sometimes we come out close to even. The human experience is what connects us, makes us able to empathize with one another. The interconnectedness and interdependence of humans has been front and center this year. What makes us strong? In my opinion, being together, relying on one another, gets us through the hard times. And yet, we've been told repeatedly to avoid one another because of COVID. It's hard to do and feel okay, like we're going to make it without one another. It is a conundrum. We need one another, and yet we need to be separate from one another. It hurts being apart. We need to connect and affect one another. One person's happiness, sadness, healthiness, and so on can affect the emotions of others. This is not an intentional effect, but is happening by a power greater than ourselves. It is said that no human is an island, and I believe this is true. I think of lessons that we have learned this year about how important we are to one another, how important feeling connected is, how much support we actually need. There is something important in choosing a higher power, especially as we continue to persevere through a year that has felt almost biblical in nature. The leaders who are self-focused and greed-filled, control, obsess, the plagues, the sick and dying, the hopes and the prayers for redemption. Throughout biblical accounts, God has challenged humankind in oh so many ways, with plagues, floods, being tossed out of the Garden of Eden, and through it all, humankind has had the opportunity, if we so choose, to live, to learn, to grow, to survive and thrive, or not. It has always been our choice, and I believe that it is how we choose to live this life that is ultimately up to us. Who or what will choose to help us make sense of it all? I think that the good news in all of this is that we have some control over not what happens to us, but how we respond to each and every challenge. We can evaluate any given situation and choose to seek and find a silver lining, the wisdom within, and let that positivity give us some level of hope, optimism, buoyancy in the face of challenges. It is up to us to reframe any given situation non-judgmentally, filled with love and compassion for others and ourselves. Reframing is the tool that we can reach for as we reflect on this year and move forward into 2021. I reached out to an article in Psychology Today that explains one of the skills to help us develop as mature, resilient individuals is that of reframing. When we change our point of view on any given situation, the facts remain the same, but the deliberate shift is made in how we see it. We can replace the dismal, energy-stealing thoughts with more responsible ones, such as, I think there must be something important for me to learn here. These are examples of reframing problems as challenges and taking them on as such. As we shift our thinking about a situation, there's a change in emotional tone and the meaning that we give to our life circumstances. We can choose to move our experience from the negative frame to a more hopeful one, filled with opportunities. The process allows us an expanded view of our reality. It may sound kind of easy to just go ahead and reframe everything, but what makes one successful in any endeavor is practice. When we have had more opportunity to practice, and when have we had more opportunity to practice than this year? Think about it. We have had lots of practice. Let me be totally transparent. I think that we are being forever changed by the experiences that we've been living through over the last year, and in truth, really the last several years. Feels like we have been barraged over and over again from every side. It has been truly exhausting. And if we continue on as we have been, taking it on the chin, it will continue to be exhausting, wear us down to a little organic nub. Honestly, I'm of two minds about this year. First, I'm inspired by the words of George Santayana, professor of philosophy from Harvard, who explained that those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. Know that one? With this in mind, I ask us to remember that we have endured over the last year and refuse to allow it to happen again. We have been through so much, and enough is enough. We have the ability and opportunity to learn from all of this. So let's do that, shall we? Can we believe that our commitment to wisdom and change are both helpful and hopeful? Can we reach out to our higher power for inspiration? Secondly, it's up to each one of us to cultivate the skills that will help us to let go of the trauma. And I do mean trauma. The many realities that we have endured this year, last year, over a lifetime, physical, mental, and or emotional, can be daunting. In order to move forward, it is very important for us to be able to let go, to reframe. I turn to the Tao Te Ching, where Lao Tzu shared, when I let go of what I am, I become what I might be. When I let go of what I have, I receive what I need. Right there. That's the wisdom that is centuries old, very important for us to hear and embrace. Let me say it again. When I let go of what I am, I become what I might be. When I let go of what I have, I receive what I need. Together, these two precepts, along with our acceptance of something larger than ourselves out there in the universe somewhere, offer a way to reflect on this last year, reframe what we can, glean the insight and wisdom that will enable us to take back our power and to never repeat what we no longer need to experience. The truth is that we humans do a great job of murmuring, kibitzing, and complaining. But what do we get from it, besides an opportunity to bring ourselves and others down? If we want to feel better, we need to move forward and choose to face into our challenges and refuse to allow them to get the better of us. Reframing is not meant to be denial, that the challenge that we have been dealt is a difficult one. Even though our circumstance may be fraught with hardship and we can learn to trust the cycles of life, we discover that this is a process of life that repeats itself, as do the cycles of summer, fall, winter, and then rebirth in the spring. Through an understanding and trust of this transformative process, we come to have faith that periods of decline, whether they last for minutes or months, can become periods of vibrancy. Only then can we find resources we didn't know that we had, continue our movement towards wholeness. As we engage our discomfort by reframing, we learn to trust that good results can come. We don't close our heart in bitterness because we come to appreciate the transformative power of suffering. And suffering can be transformative as long as we hold the belief that there's something greater than ourselves in this experience called life that inspires us to look beyond our suffering. After 9/11, I wrote a thesis called Crisis, an Opportunity for Transformation. As part of this, I did several conversations with survivors of different horrific circumstances: illness, addiction, homelessness, poverty, violence, and so on. With each interview, I became privy to unmentionable suffering. But what I realized upon asking my last interview question was remarkable. If you could, would you change your life and remove the suffering as well as the wisdom that you have gained through your experience? Every single person that I interviewed found deep transformative wisdom through their experience. Each and every person said the same thing. The experience, regardless of the suffering, has made me who I am. I would not change my life. I have been transformed by what I've encountered in ways that I can never or would never believe was possible. To say the least, I was blown away, and I was heartened that it is part of the human condition to survive through the hardest times. It is part of us to seek and find the silver, gold, and platinum linings, and to heal and have hope for the future. This is a process that requires connection, commitment, love, and the ability to step outside of oneself into a power greater and larger than you and I. To let go of what we are in order to become what we might be. To let go of what we have in order to receive what we need. To remember what we have been through in order to take different steps that may lead us, each and all, beyond where we have been. That is the goal for 2021. In closing, I share and dedicate a reading for the new year by the 13th century Persian poet Rumi. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture, still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. Let us take a moment to embrace all of these things that we have been bearing and carrying over the last year. Let us be open to what may come. Happy New Year's, my friends. May it be so. Blessed be. Amen. With that, I invite you to extinguish our chalice together, and we have the reading inside the order of worship. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Good and loving people, our time in worship has come to an end. And I leave you these words from T.S. Eliot. What we call the beginning is often the end. And to make an end is to make a beginning. The end is where we start from. We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all of our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. Dear friends, may it be so. Blessed be. Amen.